The following is a presentation from the 10th Annual Humanities Days at Montgomery College. The power of humanities to sustain and serve. This year, we offered 32 events via Zoom and in person. To learn more about Humanities Days at Montgomery College and to access other program recordings, please go to this website.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this presentation. I'm so happy to have you all here. My name is Taqi Daryabi. I'm a journalist and I'm from Afghanistan working for Attendee. And Attendee is a paper, newspaper. It was a newspaper in Afghanistan, but right now we just have online version. Before I walk you through what's going on, I would like to introduce Attendee, that how Attendee became Attendee. Attendee was founded in 2010 by Taqi Daryabi and worked for 10 years in Afghanistan. During this 10 years, we have a lot of achievements in journalism in Afghanistan. For example, what should I say? I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous because it's my first presentation in English. So Attendee started in 2010, working on writing news and reports, and then it developed its work investment to more professional journalism. So in the past 10 years, for example, Attendee grew up very differently with other medias in Afghanistan. Other medias had support, but Attendee started independently and raised up independently. So, and it's well known, right now it's well known as one of the best newspapers, one of the best news agencies in Afghanistan. And let's head to what's going on in Afghanistan. So, as you see the title, that what does it mean to be a journalist in Afghanistan, from fears and challenges to hopes and efforts. Working as a journalist in Afghanistan is not easy. It has not been easy before even before the Taliban, and even right now. We had a lot of problems before the Taliban took over, and we have many more problems right now. And it's very challenging for us. So being a journalist in Afghanistan is not something very easy. I'm sorry, I'm just nervous.
You're doing great. You're doing great, Taqi. No problem. Do you want to talk about your experience? What happened? If you don't mind, the event, when you were, I think, being on women's, they were protesting in Afghanistan, in Kabul.
Right.
When was that exactly?
It was on September 8th last year, 2021. That day, me and one of my colleagues, Nemat Nakti, we went to cover women protests in Kabul, Afghanistan. And unfortunately, Taliban forces came to us and arrested us and take us to the police station. So when they asked us to, especially when one of their members asked me to go with them to the police station, I was thinking that they want me to go with them and to talk with them. If there isn't a problem, we should solve that. So by this imagination, I went with him very comfortable. I didn't expect that was what happened to me. I mean, that I was not expecting that accident that happened to me. But when I get there, before us, two other young men were arrested, and I saw that 8 to 10 members of Taliban are beating them very hardly. At that moment, my mind has changed, and what I was expecting has changed. I was thinking that they're gonna talk, they're gonna to take us to the police station just for a few minutes talk. But I found that no, they're not taking us to talk with us. They're taking us to beat us. So after they beat two other young men, they came to me and yelled me, put me on the ground and started beating me. They have tortured me for about 10 to 15 minutes until I have lost my I passed out. Until I passed out, yeah, consciousness. Until I passed out. After that, they stopped beating me and take me to another room, which they were keeping other pupils. I don't know for what reason, but they took me there and kept me there for 4 hours. And after 4 hours, they released us. I mean, when they took me, after me, they took my colleague too. We both were tortured by Taliban. So when we were released, a lot of journalists came to our office, and I was talking. I had interviewed to them. So that world should know about the situation of journalists in Afghanistan. I wish to not see any more torture in Afghanistan, especially journalists who are tortured. But the Taliban did not stop it arresting, torturing journalists. After me, there are other journalists who were arrested and tortured by Taliban, like.
Taqi, do you mind if maybe can we ask you a question, or can I ask you a question based on what you said?
Yeah.
First of all, I want to acknowledge how much I think we all appreciate how you're sharing these very difficult stories for us. I'm pretty sure most of us on this Zoom call have not experienced arrest and detention and torture like you have. And I know that's hard to share. So I want to thank you for sharing that. We have a lot of students at Montgomery College who are just beginning to explore careers and different professions. So I was wondering, can you share with us why you got into journalism in the first place? What took you to that profession to become a journalist?
I remember the first reason that I started to become a journalist was that when I was young, I'm still young, sorry. When I was 16 or 17 years old, I was reading books, and beside reading, I was trying to write about my feelings, about my thoughts, and the situation in Afghanistan, about my communication, relationships, and something like this. And a lot of friends were telling me that you should not write these kind of issues, because writing about these kind of issues will make a bad background for you. And when I was asking that why it's gonna to make a bad background for me, because they were saying that it's not good in Afghanistan to write about this kind of issue. You should keep silence about this kind of issues and not write. So I was thinking about the reason that why people are thinking that writing is a problem, especially writing about the problems that I had when I was at that age. There were a problem, and there is still a problem for a generation, for my generation, at least I know. And I was wondering that why people are thinking that writing is a problem, raising our voice is a problem. So after a lot of deprivation from my friend's side and family side, I decided to work as a journalist and learn professional journalism, to have the freedom of voice. I mean, to work on freedom of voice so that people can write, can talk, and can say whatever they want. There should not be any limitation on words that we are using, on issues that we're choosing, or on articles that we're choosing to talk about. So that was the first reason. And when I started my job at ELAP, I found that it is a very interesting career. For me, at least, it was very interesting. And I'm not an experienced person. I mean that I just have worked for 2 or 3 years. But until now, I learned a lot from my colleagues at ELAP, from articles that I read every day. And the reason that I'm choosing to be a journalist is that there should be someone or an organization to raise the voice of people, to write the stories of people and the stories in Afghanistan. There is not, there are a lot of other journalists who can write very, very good. I mean, they're better than me because they have worked for a lot of years. But these days, as you know, that I'm studying, I took the class ELAP 990 to study English. So I started studying English so that I could write these stories in English language. Maybe right now I cannot present very perfectly. Maybe I cannot talk very perfectly, but I know that in the future I can be better. Language is not gonna to. I know that I cannot learn English language very soon, but I'm trying to learn it day by day. So, and I hope in the future I could write these stories of people in English language. So, as we have watched the video from Taqi, her TikTok, she was saying that stories matter. Of course, stories matter. And I don't know why, how much other people in the world know about Afghanistan, about the situation in Afghanistan, but writing these stories is a way to illustrate the situation of Afghanistan to others. So illustrating the situation can give ideas to others, and ideas can change the situation in Afghanistan. You know, I don't know how much do you know about the situation in Afghanistan, but how life is going in Afghanistan for people is not something very easy. People have to do a lot to stay alive. Have to do a lot to live and survive, and something like this.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is a wonderful answer. And I should say that Professor Das in the chat says you are doing very well and your command of English is great. So we think you're doing very well. And I compliment you. I know how difficult it is to do a presentation in a second or a third language. So you're doing great.
Right.
If I may, I'd like to ask you another question.
Sure.
You said that there were many friends or people who said you shouldn't speak out.
Right.
And that it was bad to write these things. Was there any one person in Afghanistan who encouraged you to write, or maybe they were a model for you because you admired their writing?
Yeah. I had different kind of friends. Maybe some of them were telling me that you should not write, but some of them were encouraging me to write because they really like it the way that I was writing. So, for example, my big brother, my older brother was encouraging me to write. I mean, he was trying to help me to write as a professional writer, and he was giving me advices in how to write, for example, in a good format in Persian language. And also some of my friends at the same age with me, they were telling me that Taqi, you're writing very perfectly, and I really like reading the stories you're writing, the articles that you're writing, or the short paragraphs that I was writing on Facebook and posting that in my social accounts. They were telling me that you're going to be a good writer and you should keep going on. So when I was 16 or 16, between 16 and 18, I really wished to be a writer. And as you know, that later I realized, I noticed that one of the best way that I can choose to make it happen, to be a perfect writer, is being a journalist. Because when you're a journalist, you know how to write. I mean, that you're keeping the but I can say, I'm searching for words. Language, there is always language problems. So being a journalist can show you how to write a perfect article or how to write a perfect story. And yeah, there was people who was encouraging me to write, and
That's great.
Yeah.
Professor Wall points out that there are a lot of people here in this Zoom who are learning a language. So I think they know how important it is to express their ideas and how challenging that might be for you.
Right.
That makes me think of one more question, and I'm sorry if I'm asking too many questions, but what you say to me is so captivating, so interesting, or saying to us, I should say. But I was wondering, what do you think is the most difficult thing about writing in English? And I know it's not your native language, but is there any kind of like part of the grammar or anything about the way Americans express themselves that you think it makes it, or what do you think is the most difficult part of writing?
For me, the difficult part of writing in English is that the way I think. I mean that I'm thinking in Persian, and I'm translating it in my mind to English, and then want to write it down on a paper. So, but later I realized that it's not coming what it should come. that is the most difficult part for me. And one other difficult thing is that the vocabulary and the grammar, these are difficult too. But I think that the most difficult part is that we should learn how to think in English. And one day that you can think in English, on that day you will learn English. I mean, English will be other language that you will know perfectly. So this is a this is a problem that I have in writing and speaking, and yeah.
I have a quick question. How long have you been in the United States, Taqi?
About a year, yeah.
Only a year. Okay, so that's not a long time.
Not a long time, yeah.
It's not a long time. I would like to open up discussions and questions from attendees, if that's okay with you, Taqi.
I think that
Anything else you want to add?
yeah, I'm sorry that at the start of this presentation, I got nervous and my mind was not
Please,
working.
no worries.
But right now, I think that I get better, and I can talk a little bit more about journalists in Afghanistan.
Sure. Thank you.
So yeah,
I'm
I'm sorry for the first part.
No, there's nothing
well,
to be sorry about. You're
I
doing great.
got nervous.
I removed the pin, so we are all together right now. Any questions? If you have, please raise your hands, and Professor Carl will give you a chance.
I see David Stewart has a question. Go ahead, David.
Yes, Taqi, what do you think is the most difficult part about being a journalist for yourself personally in this day and time?
For me, the difficult part of being a journalist for me is this, that when you're working on Afghanistan issues, you have a lot of stories that have a that will make term for you. I mean, that stories in Afghanistan are usually sad. Stories are usually about death of people, about dying of death of people, yeah, about torturing of people, about the bad situation that is going right now in Afghanistan. It's about the deprivation of women. And when you're writing, or when I'm a digital story maker. I mean, I'm making videos, short videos, video reports, and for me, it's very difficult when I'm preparing the videos. I receive the videos from accidents in Afghanistan, and after preparing the report, I got trauma. For example, for the last time that I prepared a video and had trauma was on September 13th. There was an explosion at an educational center in Kabul, and I created a report. I opened a project, a video project, and started creating a digital story about that accident. So when I was watching the videos from the past explosion, from the explosion in the past few years, because in reports you have to give a background about this kind of issues, and you know that I watched this. When I was watching those videos and preparing the report, I remember that I also was crying, because you know that when young students are dying in a classroom, and you see that, and you're watching that by videos, by footage that are coming to you, it is very hard to me, at least. It has been very difficult for me to prepare this kind of reports. Journalism is a very stressful career for us, because what you're writing, stories that you're preparing, always have something that hurt your feeling, that hurt your mind, and yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. There's a lot of students here, so I encourage you again, if you have a question, please raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat, and I will maybe I will bring the question up. I see Johnny has his hand up. Johnny, you want to go you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Taqi, for sharing. We really do appreciate it. My question is, you mentioned earlier how challenging it has been for women in Afghanistan since, or even before the Taliban took over. I was wondering how challenging, what are some of those challenges or difficulties that women have been facing there?
You mean generally, or women that are journalists?
In general.
In general.
Yeah.
What I meant was that in Afghanistan, the women's rights has been a big issue for the last few years. There is not equality in Afghanistan. I mean, in every part, especially right now. Before the Taliban takeover, the challenges that women were facing was that they were fighting for their rights. They were asking to have their humanitarian rights. Women were not allowed to participate, for example, in governments and to have job, and women were not allowed to make decisions in Afghanistan, and women were not allowed to even to not educate in some provinces of Afghanistan. And right now that Taliban came to Afghanistan, they're trying to ban everything for women. They're trying to get women back to home and not letting them to get out by their own and using the rights and having the rights. So gender equality have been a big issue in Afghanistan, and we have seen a lot of cases that women have been deprived in different ways. So talking about challenges for women in Afghanistan needs more time to talk about. But what I want to say is that inequality in Afghanistan for women is a big challenge, has been a big challenge before, and is a big challenge right now too. Yeah. Sorry.
Good. No, thank you. That was a great answer, and thank you for that question. I think Frederica, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing, Frederica is next. However, before we go to that next question, I just want to remind everybody that they should fill out the survey to do a quick evaluation for this session. The committee that organizes Humanities Days does a lot of work. And so any feedback helps makes their job much easier. So please, if you, before you go, the link is in the chat. Thank you, Jennifer, for putting that up in the chat. You can see the link to the survey. So before you leave, please do that. Frederica, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. I just want to know, like, since you have experience, right? So like, what would you say to somebody that is younger who want to be a journalist? Like, what will you tell them to do? Will you tell them to go ahead and be a journalist, or like, what advice will you give them?
I would like to say that if you want to be a journalist, read articles every day. Work on your writing. I don't know what kind of journalist do you want to be. Do you want to work on digital stories? Do you want to be a digital storyteller, or do you want to write? Or in which part do you want to be? But writing articles, you need to read articles to learn how you can write a good article, how you can write stories, and also work on your writing. As I said at the start of presentation, these days I'm trying to make my writing in English better, because I want to write in English in the future. These stories, I want to write these stories in English. So, and also follow up the situation. I mean, always have concern about the issues that you have in your country or in your environment, and think about the problems that people have. Find problem. And if you wish to be a journalist, it's very good to
Cool.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to say something else?
No, it's all.
Oh no, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And if I may shamelessly plug the Montgomery College student newspaper, it's a great way to get a little exposure, to get a little bit of experience with writing and doing journalism and working with editors. And so I would encourage anybody who is interested in doing journalism to use the opportunity at Montgomery College to play with it and see if it's something that works for you. I know that Ladan is next, but before we go to Ladan, I think Professor Murray had a quick question, Taqi, about what language or languages did you write in?
I write in Persian, mostly in Persian, but yeah, all of them are Persian. Mostly
Persian. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Professor Wall just dropped the student newspaper website. So thank you for that. Ladan, go right ahead.
Okay, thanks for giving me a chance to ask the question. So I want to ask you, as a journalist, do you see any hope of change in Afghanistan? Just quickly saying that me as an Iranian woman, as a Farsi speaking person, if I want to relate this change to women's revolution or women's movement in Iran and Afghanistan both, do you see any change in that area in future?
Any hope for future of journalism, you mean?
In change of the situation there, like the inequality that you mentioned, do you see if there could be any change sometimes? Do you see any hope?
I'm not hopeful since the Taliban took over. I mean, until there is Taliban, I don't believe that we could have gender equality in Afghanistan. But of course, we're trying. I mean, we cannot fight with the Taliban.
I understand.
Again by again, but we're trying to teach them that situation has changed, the world has changed, and the volumes has changed in this world. And you should know that volumes, when the volumes change in the world, you should go ahead by those volumes. We should teach them that women have their own rights and you should allow them in. I mean, it's not your job to allow them. Let them to work, let them to educate, let them to be as a human, not as a second gender. So even if there is Taliban right now governing Afghanistan, we as a media, we're trying to give information. We are trying to share information. So, and we are encouraging them to read those stories and to read those articles to learn something new. I don't know how much do you know about the Taliban, but there are a group of people who had lived in mountains, not in cities. They don't know because they were a terrorist group, and they're a terrorist group. Until now, they're known as terrorist group in the United Nations. So the best way to change the situation for Afghan people is to teach the Taliban as well. That you could be a human too. You could believe, you could change your belief too. So
wow.
I like perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so powerful. You can be a human too. I'm writing these words down because these are great phrases that you're using. Thank you, LaDon, for that question. A related question, let me just go to this related question real quick, and then Jonathan will be next. Someone asked, are there still female journalists in Afghanistan? So I wonder if you could quickly answer that, and then we'll go to Jonathan.
There are, but they're not working in public. I mean, they're not showing themselves to the Taliban that we are working. So also some of women journalists who are working for TV shows, yeah, they're still working. They have their jobs, but there are restrictions against women in Afghanistan, especially for women who are journalists. They're not, for example, they have to cover their face if they want to present the news or something else in a television. But Taliban are making more restrictions day by day, month by month. So I'm not sure if next year we could have any women journalists in Afghanistan, because right now when journalists are trying to work, when trying to cover something, even the men journalists, they're being arrested by Taliban, and they have been tortured by Taliban. What I was trying to say, what I was trying to talk about the first minutes of this presentation was this, that right now the situation for journalists are very difficult. Why it's difficult? Because they cannot work comfortable. I mean, they have concerns about their safety.
Wow. Wow, that's great. That's powerful. Thank you. Jonathan, why don't you go right ahead? And Jonathan, just before you get started, Dr. Ahmad, did your class have to go at 9?
Yes, the presentation ends at 9:50. So if you have to leave, please leave. We want to do a quick wrap up, I guess, the last 3 questions quickly.
Okay, Jonathan, go ahead.
Thank you.
My question is, what was your daily routine as a journalist, and what kept you motivated as well? Since you did mention that you saw a lot of terrible things, so what kept you motivated to continue writing your story to share it to the public as well?
The people, I lived for 20 years in Afghanistan, and I saw how people are surviving in Afghanistan. And what is motivating me is that we should change a thought. I believe it's motivating me. I believe that we can change the situation in Afghanistan. If it's hard, if it's difficult for us, if it's difficult for people, for women, and for everyone, there is a way to change it. And for me, writing these stories is one of the way that we can change the situation. We should let others know about the situation and ask them when other know about when other people around the world read your stories and they find the problems and then they understand the problems that you have in your country and your people have. I'm sure that they're coming to help you as a human, because human being needs to stand side by side with each other to have a better future, to make a better future for people around the world. So motivating people, the situation that is going on for people in Afghanistan is motivating me. I know it's sad, it's hard. It's not a good situation, but sometimes a bad situation can motivate someone. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Fikirte is going to be next up. Fikirte, before you unmute, let me just remind people to complete the survey for this presentation before you go. The more people who could fill that out for us, the better. The link is up there from Jennifer. If you look at the chat. And also Professor Wall put in the link to the student newspaper Excalibur. And also Dr. Ahmad is put in the link to a BBC news article about Taqi's story. So that's just amazing that we can read about him in the BBC. So please do that. Fikirte, go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me this chance, and thank you, Taqi, and thank you, Professor Saidi Ahmed. And our professor shared about your story, and I read it, and you are very brave. Thank you for coming and giving us this presentation. And the title said, "What does it mean to be a journalist in Afghanistan?" So overall, what does it mean, to be a journalist, and what could it be changed even, and it's not only Afghanistan, it's Ethiopia, and it's the same as well. And it used to be as well, but not anymore. So what could it change to be,
Yeah. The title is written that what does it mean to be a journalist in Afghanistan? And it's followed by another sentence that from fear and challenge to hope and efforts. Being a journalist in Afghanistan is not an easy thing. You have a lot of concern. You have to go through a lot of problems, and you have to think about a lot of problems and about a lot of concerns that you will have in Afghanistan. For example, I realize if you compare other countries with Afghanistan, if you're a journalist in the United States, it's easy to be a journalist. You can write it very perfectly. I mean, you're free to write about anything. You're free to write stories. But in Afghanistan, it's not the same. You're not allowed to write about everything. There are restrictions that prevent you to not write about some things that government does not like it. And other thing that is making difficult to be a journalist in Afghanistan is about your safety. There are a lot of journalists who were killed by targeted attacks. There are a lot of journalists who were arrested and tortured. I have been arrested. I have been tortured. And why? Because I was covering a protest. So you can see that how difficult it is to be a journalist. You have to be ready. You have to be ready for this kind of accidents that will happen to you. You have to accept that one day you will go through this kind of accidents. You will be tortured, you will be killed, and you will lose your life. The government and some of other people are trying to make the Afghanistan a silence Afghanistan. They don't want people to raise their voice. They don't want journalists to raise the voice of people. For example, if we are writing about an important issue in Afghanistan, if we write a story about an important issue, about what the government would not like it, I'm sure that they will come to you and kill you. They will come to you and arrest you. As you can see, there are articles about journalists who were killed in Afghanistan. As I mentioned an example, Yama Siova, she was working for Tilo News. Tilo News is a television in Afghanistan, a popular television. He was killed in targeted attacks in 2021. Like this, there are a lot of other journalists who were killed in the past few years. Every year, reports are coming that Afghanistan has been known as the worst country for journalists in the world. Why? Because journalists are being targeted by terrorist groups and the government and by other people. So what does it mean to be a journalist in Afghanistan? It means that you have to prepare yourself for a situation like this. You have to prepare your mind. You have to accept in your mind that if you become a journalist, one day you will lose your life. One day you might be arrested and you might spend your whole life in jail. So it's hard. In other side, you have to accept that you cannot have a good life with being a journalist. Journalism, as I said, that it is a very stressful career for Afghan journalists, because the stories that we are writing are not a happy story. They are always sad stories. There are always stories about the death of the people, the targeted attacks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the other
Thank you.
problems.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have a plan to be a journalist in the US?
Of course. As I said, I answered this question before. I don't know if you were in the presentation or not. These days I'm studying at ELAP 919, and I would like to study English. I would like to write in English. In the future, I would like to write in English. I mean, the stories of Afghanistan in English. So
That's
this
great.
is what I'm hoping to have.
Thank you. Fikirte, thank you for that great question, because I think that's a really good way to end, is thinking about the future. And yes, there's been some hard realities to the past, but I'm encouraged and hopeful to hear that Taqi is going to continue with his career in journalism. I look forward to reading his next articles, wherever they come. Dr. Ahmad, did you want to say some?
No, I just want to
in closing?
echo to what you said. Thank you, Taqi Daryabi. Thank you for your brave presentation. English being your second language, only been here for a short time, and there were 76 attendees, yay, that came here to listen to you. It was very informative. We appreciate your time to be here. Thank you, and thank you for the attendees as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe we can do a quick round of applause in any way, shape, or form in appreciation for what Taqi has just done. Totally amazing.
Thank you all for being here. I did not expect it to have an issues that during the presentation. I was preparing. I was prepared for to have a different presentation, but you know that talking in second language is always hard, and the problem that I had always have is that.
No, it's I'm
Very
sorry.
nice.
Great.
You did great, and I have to disagree with you. You did really, you know.
No. For me, it was not acceptable. I know that.
Wow.
Thank you.
I can't imagine. I lived in Mexico for a while, for about a year, and I can't imagine doing a presentation in Spanish to 70 people after only being in Mexico for a year. So that is just truly amazing. I just want to remind people again that there are many Humanities Days events that are happening at the college. Jennifer, I don't know if you have the link for registration on hand. Sorry to catch you.
Oh, I just put it in the chat.
Excellent, thank you.
I put it in the chat, and I'll put the Survey Monkey in the chat as well, the link for today's presentation. And I want to thank you all also for attending. And it was you really got the messages across that you wanted to get across. And thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the chance.
And also,
college. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off. Go ahead and say again what you were saying, Taqi.
I was saying that thank you all for being here, and thanks to Montgomery College for giving a chance to me to present the situation for journalists in Afghanistan. I wish to present it in a better way, and to share other ideas that I had in my mind but couldn't share it in English. You know that language matter. Language always matter.
Right.
And I wish one day I could learn English and have more presentation and have more talks about journalists in Afghanistan. And I wish to have you all in the future in other presentations that I hope I'm planning to make. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for Jennifer. Thank you, Ahmad Sadi, and sorry, I forgot your name, but thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
You'll have to come here next year, next Humanities Days, and speak again.
Okay, we'll do that.
Sure.
So we'll see you in a year.
I promise that I will talk next Humanities Days in a better.